But first, we feel we owe you guys a very honest, raw, and real update on a person I hope to never speak about or to again.
There are additional chapters in the tale that I will call Scam Butts.
Okay.
Scam Butts, the Caroline Calloway story as told by Claire and Ashley.
Beautiful. So I unfortunately must come to you guys and be honest because this is an honest space. And I think I would like to give all of myself to the squirmy worms.
Quick reminder, worms don't rat. Okay.
Worms don't rat. Me and Ashley must admit something we had promised to never tell anybody, which is that after Caroline Calloway came and recorded with us on that Sunday, and both of us kind of failed to recognize how apparently rude she was to us. And I do think it's for a multitude of reasons. I do think on the one hand, she was
so... You keep saying multitude. We're so smart.
Have I said it a couple times?
I said it once, and now you said it once.
Okay, well, now we're tied.
Okay.
But I guess mine counts less because I said it after you. I know, myriad.
Okay.
A myriad of reasons. Myriad reasons, not myriad of. I think myriad reasons.
I couldn't correct you. I have no idea.
Anyway, my point is, she came, she sat down. I think we were both very worried that she would be so nice and we'd have to be fake nice to her. We were relieved when she came in bitchy. She was stupid, so when she was being rude to us, it didn't really hurt our feelings. And then I think also in the editing room, a lot of the more jokey parts got cut because it wasn't helpful to the cohesiveness of the episode. And so listening, it seemed a lot weirder than it was. And then we had that weird thing where the next day we got so much backlash on TikTok for people were treating her like a Nazi. And I'm like, look, I don't think she is truly evil. I think she's a crazy psycho bitch and a delusional psycho, but I don't think she's evil. But then I think when we recorded the last Patreon, I was coming out of this place of that day had not been unpleasant. And then to see the backlash on TikTok, I feel like I was put on the defensive of Caroline Calloway because I was like, what do you mean we're giving her a platform? First of all, she's giving us a platform. And second of all, she doesn't have horrible, evil ideas about like genocide.
Yeah, I will say the one place that I still come from a place of sympathy is the fact that I do feel like with her, with Lena, with these like love to hate women, a lot of times one story will kind of like get out there and then people will just run with it so hard. Like this anti-Semitic thing, I haven't seen any actual evidence to the fact that she's anti-Semitic other than this one interview where she like said something so fucking stupid about Anne Frank, but it was like from a place of stupidity.
Tell them what it was.
Basically, she was like talking about, she's like, Anne Frank survived the Holocaust to XYZ. Like that was her wording. And it's like, she's just fucking dumb. I don't think she hates Jewish people.
She also later was talking about how Americans had like this history of memoirists that England didn't have, and then named Nabokov and George Orwell, which are famously not American people. So she is just like truly stupid. And it's ironic that she often has like no factual basis to what she's saying because she came in here and like tried to school us on facts, something she historically knows nothing about.
Right. And so I will say, you know, there was also people saying that she was racist towards Asian people, which I again haven't seen evidence of, and if that's true, like fuck off, Caroline. But
I also don't think we didn't give her a platform the way that like SNL gave Trump a platform to be likable. Like,
yeah, we brought her in.
If you hated her, you were gonna hate her more after the episode. So anyway, I guess in a self-defense, I was like, all right, we are not sympathizing with horrible people.
So now that we're done with the one thing I will defend her on, I will say I don't like her anymore. I was like, oh, she's just like a harmless dummy who just like wants to come in and defend Lena Dunham because she's trying to like be Lena Dunham's best friend or some shit. Like, it's fine.
I think we said last week, if you really want to dig deep into why maybe she wanted to defend Lena Dunham, look into who procured the life rights of Caroline Calloway for the movie.
Yeah. So anyway, but the thing she did to us after, so what you were saying, the thing we swore we would never tell, she texted us after we recorded and was like, do you guys want to go see this Jacqueline Novak play, Get on Your Knees, or Jacqueline Novak One Woman Show? And Claire and I had been talking about going for ages, I tell you.
Last year we wanted to take each other as a Galentine's Day gift, but it turned out the show actually was no longer playing. So,
right. So we
were
didn't.
stymied.
Our Galentine's Day was cut at the knees, but
the knees we so badly wanted to be on.
But Caroline was like, oh, it's back at the Cherry Theater. Do you want to go? And we had wanted to go, so we said yes. And also, by the way, you guys, that is not the part of the night that I am ashamed of. If you guys have the opportunity to go see Get on Your Knees, it's about to hit the road. She's about to do some traveling. So, like, literally, it was so fucking good. Then afterwards, we got drinks with her and two of her friends friends, I think, is, like, obviously a loose word. But one of them was like, hey, how do you guys know Caroline? And we like started talking about the podcast, and Caroline was like, yeah, my friend has a podcast that is also a celebrity book club podcast, which also when Caroline was at my apartment,
she mentioned that
podcast. And we told her that we were, we don't hate these people. We just don't know them, and they're doing the exact same thing as us and started after us. So, we're wary of them and frustrated that they have a lot of publicity behind them.
Because they have a network, and so they have a lot of money behind them. And so it has been hard. And then also they launched themselves. Their PR moment was, like, they called themselves the Unhinged Celebrity Podcast. And we were like, are you, though? Are you?
Because when we started, like, right after we started, that other girl in LA started hers, and like ours is kind of the unhinged one and hers is kind of the thoughtful feminist one, and we were like, okay, perfecto. And then this other one came and they're like, we're the unhinged one, and we're like, are you anyway? So she mentioned that podcast. We were like, yeah, we're not really, we don't talk about that. And then at dinner she was like, oh yeah, I was like halfway into recording this podcast with them before I realized it wasn't my friend's podcast.
And thank God Ashley was there. And I'm going to give you all the credit in the world, because I don't know if I'm dumb or I just have really tough skin or what, or she's so dumb, but nothing she says like particularly phases me. But thank God I just heard it and I was just like, okay, whatever. But Ashley was there, and I'm glad you were, because you pushed her on it and you go, what do you mean? So the other podcast, the guy, because when she was in our apartment, she kept being like, oh, one of the guy is like my good friend. Do you want to do a crossover episode? And we were like, not really. She's like, because I could facilitate that. Like, I know him. I'll text him. And so when she said, it wasn't until halfway through that I realized it wasn't my friend's podcast, Ashley goes, you mean you were in my apartment for 2 hours and you didn't realize neither of us was a man? And she goes, well, like, I guess I just like didn't think about it. Like, I thought it was my friend's podcast. And Ashley goes, so you went to an apartment to a podcast, and at no point did you like text your friend and was like, hey, I can't wait to do your podcast. Or like, hey, I'm coming over. Good friend, she kept calling him.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, like, I guess I just like never heard the podcast before, so I didn't realize. And Ashley goes, that's not true. You had come to our podcast with time-stamped rebuttals from the time you had listened to the episode. You had just listened to the last episode. And she goes, well, I didn't realize, like, I guess I didn't really think about him not being on it. I guess I thought he just like was producing that episode or something. And Ashley was just
nonsense. It's like, okay, so he's your good friend and you don't know his role on this podcast? What are you talking about?
And you don't contact. And then also the other thing is she
had been following us for a month on TikTok.
And when it all came about that she's going to do the podcast, she was like, something I would like to get out of this is I would like a TikTok viewership bump from you guys, because you guys are doing great on TikTok. She's like, I'd love if you could post 3 TikToks about me. So she knew exactly who we were on TikTok, where we have videos featuring our faces, 2 women. And then she listened to an episode and it was 2 women. And then she came to our apartment, it was 2 women, and for her to pretend that this whole time she thought we were her friends. So then we were just like, whatever. She is a crazy person, but whatever. It was just so pathetic.
It was just so weird that she was like posturing for these 2 girls who, like, it seemed she barely knew. It was such a bizarre thing to be like, oh, these 2
and also don't care. They wouldn't have known either of the podcasts. If she had said, so we are the most popular podcast of all time, they would have gone, okay. Like, she was obsessed with, she thinks this other podcast is cooler than us.
Okay, but before we even get into that angle, can you read? So then, Sunday, she still hadn't posted really about doing our podcast, and the whole thing was, she said, you guys hype me up on TikTok, I'll hype you up on Instagram, because we have more followers than her on TikTok, and she has more followers than us on Instagram, and she hadn't really posted on Instagram. So Sunday morning, we were kind of like, hey, can you post? And she was like, yeah, totally, and then she didn't, and then I sent her the graphics that I made on Sunday afternoon, and I was like, just in case you need these. And she was like, great, cool. Or I don't think she said anything. And then at 9 p.m., me and Claire were at a fucking carnival, and she was like, getting ready to post. Prime posting hours. And I was like, fucking sure, Sunday night is prime posting hours. Just please post.
So then I looked at the caption, and what I saw made me drop my goddamn Zeppeli. Okay. So let me read the captions. Please do yourself a favor and go check out the newest episode of Celebrity Memoir Book Club, during which I decide that defending Lena Dunham is the hill I will die on. Have a problem with that ghost pepper of a take? Please, by all means, leave a comment below in order to boost my engagement. Ashley and Claire are killing it on TikTok, and the least I can do is show them some Instagram love.
Why? Why did you say that? Like, no one was asking.
It's just so funny to do a podcast and be like, Their promotion is killing it. Not the podcast. They're like, it's a great podcast. It was a fun episode.
Yeah, but also this whole thing of like, they're killing it on TikTok, so I'm promoting them on Instagram. It's like, what is the point of answering a question that nobody asked?
And then here's where it gets. If that had been it, we would have said whatever.
Sure.
But then it keeps going. Maybe not you. You might have not. That might have been enough to get you mad. Anyway.
It was honestly enough to get me mad. But then it kept going.
Did I originally confuse their podcast with the spookily, similarly named Celebrity Book Club? Sure, of course I did. But although Buddha PH and I will always, she tagged Buddha, and I will always share a special bond together because we spent the most taxing night of my life together, the Red Scare live show 6 hours before my father's funeral, where I had to give the eulogy. Claire and Ashley and I spent the 4th of July together. It was fun, low stakes, and intellectually engaging. Plus, they prepared the breakfast spread of an Italian B&B. What more could you ask for? So before we even
explain the photo, and then I'll get into the parts that make me grumpy.
Okay, so this came with a 5-picture carousel. First page, our promo that Ashley had sent her. Second picture, the other podcast. By the way, Buddha PH is the host of this other podcast that is, for all intents and purposes, a rival podcast.
I mean, they're a rival in the sense that they do literally exactly what we do.
So first she promotes us, and then immediately she promotes them. And then she does a photo of that Red Scare live event, which is, by the way, a third podcast. That is not ours. Whatever. The picture from her on stage with this man, and then the 2 hosts of the Red Scare. And then the next photo is a close-up of just her and the man. And then the 5th photo is the 3 of us. Here's where it gets interesting. So she has tagged this Buddha PH once in the comments, or once in the caption, and then once she tagged him in his own podcast promo. Then she tags him again when they're on stage in the group shot. Then she tags him a 4th time when it's a picture of just the 2 of them closed up. Here's where it gets interesting. And then the weird part is she texted us and goes, "Hi guys, just posted, and don't worry, I made sure not to tag your nemesis." Which is weird because she literally did. But here's where it gets really crazy. Somebody then comments on the Instagram and goes, "That's Dan Allegretto on the stage with you at the Red Scare show, right?" To which she responds, narrator voiceover. Caroline, in fact, did not know that was Dan Allegretto on the stage with her at the Red Scare show. So I looked it up. Neither Dan Allegretto or Buddha PH follow her back.
God. Okay, so she took this opportunity.
I just want to explain real quick to explain what that means. So that means she came to our house thinking it was her good friend's house to do her good friend's podcast that she didn't know anything about. She then said she thought for a very long time she had done her good friend's podcast. She then quoted her good friend, and the one night I guess they have ever hung out in their lives that was a core memory of the worst night of her life, and then posted a photo of another person. So this core memory that she has of becoming good friends with this man whose life she doesn't know anything about is a memory she had with an entirely different person. So this good friend is like a person she has probably never even met.
She has probably literally never met this person who she felt the need to go so far out of her way to promote because she is determined that their podcast is cooler than ours. And that is the thing. That's the crux of it for me, is that she invited herself onto our podcast. Like, she said that we were going to do a one and done Lena Dunham. We weren't going to talk about her a second time. We weren't going to talk about her probably ever again in our entire fucking lives. But Caroline said, I want to correct your opinions about her. And we were like, this is a good opportunity for us, so we can't say no. And then she just went on to just disrespect us over and over again at dinner, and then disrespect us on it. This is something that literally no one asked, and it's a memory that is literally wrong. If she had just posted, hey, we also didn't even ask her to do in feed. If she had just done a story and said, hey, I did this podcast, give it a listen, that was literally all we were asking for.
On the stories, she both times goes, their TikTok is huge. And it's like, who are you trying to prove yourself to? Nobody is sitting there going, why did Caroline do this podcast that's so beneath her? Nobody gives a shit. It's so crazy.
It really was just projecting how hard she thought we were beneath her. If she had just said, I did this cool podcast, everyone would have been like, this must be a cool up and coming podcast. But because she kept needing to qualify it, it really makes you feel like we're nobody idiots.
It's so, and then also spookily similarly named. I mean, it is spooky that they, first of all, not just that they came 6 months later, but at that point there are 4 or 5 other podcasts called Celebrity Book Club. We're the only celebrity memoir book club.
Yeah.
But there are now 6 copycats. It is spooky and pathetic that they looked at all those others and just couldn't come up with an original name. Second of all, Low Stakes is a real stab in the heart.
Low Stakes, I think, is what really hurt me.
I don't care because it was those stakes because nothing she said was smart or true. Here's where I actually want to take it a step further and go, this delusion wrapped in a delusion, wrapped in a delusion, wrapped in a backhanded compliment is even, we haven't even discussed the Red Scare live show 6 hours before my father's funeral where I had to give the eulogy. Now, here's something I've spent a lot of time thinking about. What time was her father's funeral? Because I cannot imagine that the Red Scare podcast did an early morning live show. It would seem to me that the most likely time period that this Red show could have happened is at earliest 6 p.m. and ended at latest midnight. And that is a very generous 6-hour window.
Right.
I would guess it probably doors at 7, show at 8, ended up by 10.
Correct. So we're saying that her dad had a 4 a.m. funeral? Is that the math?
Well, with that 6 hours, so say earliest it could have started would be 6 p.m.
Maybe, okay, can I give the absolute benefit of the doubt?
Yes.
Absolute benefit of the doubt.
You think it was a matinee performance?
No. I was going to say absolute benefit of the doubt is she meant 6 hours before I had to leave for my father's funeral.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what that's not what she said.
That's not what she said.
She said 6 hours before my father's funeral.
Where she had to give the eulogy.
And then it got me wondering, because, this was pre-pandemic. So there's no, Zoom eulogy later. I know he's from Virginia, so it was the same time frame. But then I thought maybe she did, phone in the eulogy and be like, I can't come to the funeral. I have this opportunity to do a live show.
It's entirely possible. I mean.
But still, the time.
Also, I will say this, taxing night where she had to do this live show before. You literally didn't have to do this show before your father's funeral. I'm sorry.
Also, I'm sorry. How taxing was it if you don't even remember who you spent an hour and a half talking to?
I guess she just had, a trauma blackout. I don't know.
She's a trauma blackout where she came to and accidentally misremembered somebody that she's desperate to be friends with because she thinks they're cool. So something of note is that Dasha, the Red Scare co-host, did recently do the Other Book Club podcast.
Yes.
And I do think what happened, and I've talked about this extensively, and I think Caroline is very delusional. And I think I just do think both things were true to her at the same time, which is why she's so crazy and it's scary.
Yeah.
I do think on the one hand, she knew exactly who we were. She knew we were 2 women with a huge TikTok following, a platform that she is trying to grow on. I think she knew that. I think she knew that doing our podcast, the 2 women's podcast, would then get her bigger on TikTok, and that was true. I think she also knew that there is another similar podcast with these people that she is desperate to be in the universe of. I think she is desperate to be in a stone's throw as close, because I've noticed on her podcast, on her Instagram, she's always promoting Red Scare, and I don't think
they never tag her back.
They have no interest in having anything. And I've never seen them or heard, I know what they're about, but I didn't see the live show or anything. I have heard from people that watched it that they just obliterated her. She is such a joke to them, and they used her as a carnival, you know what I mean?
That's almost sad.
She was an exhibition to them when she was at her most prominent. They would never have her back now. I don't even think if she was at her most prominent now, they would have her on, because I think they've grown way beyond that dumb essay. And I think she just wanted so badly to think that this would put her on their radar again, that she just wished it to be true.
And
that's why I guess she can't hurt my feelings, because
pathetic.
I'm she's not just crazy and delusional, she is pathetic and sad. She wants so badly to rebrand as a downtown New York City it girl, and I'm just
it's not working.
Okay.
Anyway.
So that's the Caroline story. I hope we never talk about her again.
I hope we never talk about her again. I will say I'm still annoyed about it, because I just feel even though the story does feel true to me that she is just so desperate to, be a successful downtown it girl, she'll, bulldoze everyone in her wake to, create this delusion for herself. I am just, pissed that we were the people that she had to, belittle to make this fantasy a reality.
As much as I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that she is a delusion, you can't let a crazy person hurt your feelings. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I also do think she knew what she said wasn't nice. Do you know what I mean? She wasn't coming up just going, I see the face of the devil in your face, and I think you need to be she didn't think, you know what I mean? She wasn't absolutely projecting an insanity on us, but she did say something mean, and it can't hurt my feelings because I see that she is insane, but it was meant to hurt our feelings.
I will also say it didn't hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
I didn't go to bed being Caroline Calloway said I was low stakes, and now I feel low stakes. You know what I mean? But it was a thing where I was oh, fuck her. No, man, we're not doing. I won't cordially
I guess part of it for me was I was
Like-
so mean to her face at that dinner. Like,
Yeah.
at that dinner, I was so beyond it that I was out and out. I brought the heat I think the people wish I had brought to the podcast, where every time she said something stupid, I would literally call her out on it.
Yeah.
And I guess I was just like, yeah, I didn't think she had picked up on it because she was
I don't
so
think I was
dumb.
mean at dinner because
I was.
I'm saying I'm trying to even remember what I said at dinner. I think I was just like so baffled by her like delusions and bizarreness that I was like, I don't even know what mean thing to say because everything she's saying right now is insane. She kept on being like, you guys, this restaurant is amazing. Make sure to like get the names of everyone who works here so that we like know their names. And I was like, what are you fucking talking about? What are you like?
I had a
also-
couple side conversations,
Okay.
and
I was going to say I also knew people who worked there, like
Yeah.
literally. Like there's this, like a friend of mine's sister works there, and so we were like chatting.
yeah, it was. I mean, she was saying is insane, and like, but I did a couple times just like kind of call her dumb to her face, and I made fun of her little minion friend a lot to her face,
Yeah.
and so I guess when I saw her be mean back, I did feel like, well, this is par for the course. I guess she picked up on me being mean first. Anyway, any final thoughts on her?
My final thoughts are, once again, I'm so sorry, Wormies. I think that there were good things that came out of that episode, such as I don't know, I think it was good experience for us to, like, argue with someone like that and keep our composure. If you've been listening to us for a long time, you'd know that we've not always been the most composed.
Yeah, and I do, like, I appreciate the wormies that bore with us through that episode. I know it was a tough listen. We got a lot of feedback that people were like, it took us like 2 or 3 attempts to get through it all. I know she was tedious, and I'm sorry, and I hope that the wormies can see it was like a compromise we had to make for the exposure.